Today we're going to add integers. Using a number line, we can see how the addition of integers works. We start at 0, and then we move left for negative numbers, we move right for positive numbers. And if we look, we have positive 4. So we're going to start at 0, and then we're going to move 4 units to the right because it's positive. Then, from where we just left off, we're going to move left because it's negative, and that will be 4 units as well. And so we can see here that we started off at 0, moved 4 to the right, then we moved 4 to the left, and we wound up back at 0. So what that means is that 4 plus negative 4 is 0. Let's try this again. Here we're going to start off at 0, and we're going to be moving negative 1. From negative 1, we're going to move negative 3. So it's 3 units to the left again. And so we can see here that negative 1 plus negative 3 is negative 4. The last of these examples, we're starting off at 0, and we're moving negative 2. So that's 2 to the left. Then, from the negative 2, we're going to move positive 6. So that's 4, 5, 6, puts us right here. And so negative 2 plus 6 equals 4. So if worse comes to worse, and you're struggling with this, which I don't think you will, but you could always use a number line to make sure that you're clear on your answer. And sometimes, from time to time, we will actually have number line problems. So the other way to do this is to add the absolute values of the integers. That's what we'll do first. We add the absolute values of the integers, and then we use the I'm going to say the bigger sign. I'm just trying to... Oh, no, actually, you know what? I can use... All right. Oh, this is adding integers with the same sign. I'm sorry. Then I can just use the same sign. I don't understand. I wasn't reading the rules. So we can add the same sign. And so what we do is we typically say same signs, add, and keep. So we just keep the same sign, so because these have the same sign. So in each of these problems, this answer is going to be positive, this one will be negative, this one will be negative, this one will be positive, this will be negative, this will be negative. Because when we have the same signs, you keep the same sign. So 2 plus 5 is just 7. 7 plus 13 is just 20. Negative 2 plus negative 5, that's just negative 7. Because we still do 2 plus 5, and then we throw on the negative sign afterwards. 8 and negative 5, that's negative 13, because 8 plus 5 is 13, and both these numbers are negative. 4 plus 2 is 6, and both these numbers are negative. 2 and 15 is 17, and both these numbers are negative. So what we did here was we added the values that we had. Technically, we added the absolute values of what we had, and then we kept the same sign. So to subtract so adding integers with different signs, we subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then use the sign of the integer with the greatest absolute value. We'll talk about that in a moment. Typically what I say is different signs subtract. And when we subtract, it should be a mentally common thing for you to say, oh, I'm going to subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. And we want to use the sign of the bigger number so that we keep our number intact. So here we go. 8 and negative 10. 10 is bigger, so we go 10 minus 8, which gives us 2. 10 is also bigger, and it has a negative sign on it, so our answer is negative 2. Negative 12 and 12, those are equal in size, so we're just going to go 12 minus 12, which is 0. Over here we have negative 13 and 17. 17 is bigger, so 17 minus 13, which is 4. And because the 17 is bigger and it's positive, our answer is positive. Over here we have negative 2 plus 11, different signs. So we're going 11 because it's bigger, minus 2 because it's smaller. That equals 9. And it's positive because 11 is bigger. 5 plus negative 10, again, 10 is bigger, and then minus 5 is 5. And then because 10 is bigger and 10 is negative, we make it negative 5. 10 minus 9, because 10 is bigger than 9, we go 10 minus 9 is 1. And then we have a 10 minus 9 is 1, and so 10 is bigger, so we make it a negative 1. Over here we have 7 is bigger, minus 3 equals 4. And because 7 is bigger and 7 is positive, this answer is positive. And negative 31 plus 31, these are the same, so we go 31 minus 31, which is 0. Which leads us to note a couple things. There's been 3 times today that we have seen a problem where the two opposites have been added together. And there's a special name for that and a special rule for that. So here we go. It's called the additive inverse property. The sum of a number and its additive inverse or opposite is 0. We can see this in the variable form as a number plus its opposite equals 0. So 6 plus negative 6 is 0, and negative 25 plus 25 is 0. Now to take a look at some story problems. The list shows 4 account transactions. Find the change in the account balance. So we can go negative 40 plus 50 plus 75 plus negative 50. Sometimes I write my negatives with parentheses around them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes you'll see them in books with parentheses around them, and sometimes you won't. So just be aware. What you can do with this problem, you can solve this problem several different ways. It's completely up to you. One of the things I do is I oftentimes look to see if there's anything that I can apply with the additive inverse property, and I can here. I've got a 50 and a negative 50, and I know because of the additive inverse property that that becomes 0. So I'm really looking at negative 40 plus 75. Well, negative 40 plus 75 is the same as 75 minus 40. Actually, I should stop right here and do that. And that's going to be 35. Now I stop and I look. 75 was bigger, it was positive, so we have a positive $35 change. Please remember to use units when using given story problems. At 12 p.m., the water pressure in the submarine was 435 pounds per square inch. I'm going to write that down as the first number here. From 12 to 12:30, water pressure increases 58 pounds per square inch. Increases adding, so I'm going to add 58 pounds per square inch. From 12:30 to 1 p.m., the water pressure decreases 116 pounds, so I'm going to subtract 116 per square inch. What's water pressure at 1 o'clock? So the way that I would do this problem is I would stop and say, look for additive inverse, but I can't do that. So I'm going to add my positives together first. So I'm going to come over here, 435 plus 58, and that gives me 3, carry the 1, 9, and that's 493. So I have 493 plus negative 116. Now, again, since these are different signs, I'm going to subtract. So going to subtract these two numbers, 493 is bigger, and so then we subtract 116, which is smaller. We're going to borrow. 13 minus 6 is 7, 8 minus 1 is 7, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So we have 377 pounds per square inch is known as PSI, and there we go. This last one, a diagram shows the elevation changes between checkpoints on a trail. The trail begins at an elevation of 8,136 feet. What's the elevation at the end of the trail? So what we're doing is we're starting off at 8,136. The first thing we're doing is we're going down 174. We're going up 350. Then we're going down 180. Then we're going up 282 to the end. Now, one of the things that I like to do with this kind of problem, because addition is commutative, I can regroup things. I can add all the positives together and then come back through afterwards and add all the negatives together and then find a complete and total answer. So I'm going to go 8136, 350, 282, and then that's adding all those, so that's 8. 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 8 is 16, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. And so we have a positive 8,068. Then, on the other hand, we have the negative 174 plus negative 180. Since those are same signs, we can just add those values. 4 plus 0 is 4, 7 plus 8 is 5, carry the 1, well 15, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, so we have a negative 354. So what we're doing, just to make sure that you see everything, I know that some of you might be looking at things going, hey, I have an answer, and I'm like, that's great that you have an answer, but I want you to see why your answer works. Your answer works because we're adding a positive and a negative. And so that's why most of you guys would just say, hey, I'm going to subtract these two, which is correct, but we want you to realize that when we were talking about the problem, it was adding a negative. So to add a negative, though, that means that we're going to subtract. And when we subtract the bigger number minus the smaller number. 8 minus 4 is 8. 6 minus 5 is, 8 minus 4 is 4. Wow. 6 minus 5 is 1. And 7 minus 3 is 4. And we have 8,414 feet is the elevation at the end of the trail. And this answer is positive because the 8,768 is positive, and it's the bigger number. So the big idea here is that if we have the same signs, we add and keep. If we have different signs, we subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. In class, I will sing a little song for you, and it will hopefully stick in your head. Thank you.